That's what came out of the cosmic mind, light. And you and I are beings of light. And when we go to that place in our awareness where we go beyond the appearance of Maya, of physical matter, then we do experience ourselves as beings of light, because that's what we are. And this is not just light with elementary particles and forces. This is the light of intelligence, because there's a difference between information and intelligence. Information is, everybody knows what information is right now. It's data. But when information starts to feed back on its own self and evolve to higher levels of its own expression so that it becomes intelligent and creative, then it's no longer information. It's no longer dead information. It's intelligence. It's consciousness. So light is full of consciousness. And the unified field is a conscious energy field. It's literally the expression of the mind of God. And in that unified field, in that conscious energy field, one of the things that's built into it is intent. So if you read the book of Genesis, all you see is God said, let there be this, there was this. God said, let there be that, there was that. Because intent was introduced into that conscious energy field, which connects everything with everything else. And more scientists are now recognizing that intent is a force in nature. It's not something that happens to us here, right in our own minds. Intent is a force in nature. There was a scientist around the time of Darwin, his name was Lamarck, and he coined a term called teleology, and ever since then, now scientists are aware that the best way to explain biological mechanisms is to understand the intent behind the spirit that was in that biological organism. So Lamarck said camel has a hump because the intent was to navigate the desert for 7 days without water. And birds have wings because the intent was, I will fly. But there's a trick, and the trick is the intent can't come from the level of the ego. The intent has to come from beyond the ego. You know, I remember many years ago in India, I was, this long time ago, as a medical student, we had one day a young yogi come to our physiology lab to show the power of intent. And yogis have these extraordinary abilities, the siddhis that you're talking about, some of the yogis. And by the way, yogi, yoga, yog all come from the same root, which means the unification of body, mind, soul, and spirit, and environment. So this young fellow, he was about 28 to 29, a very accomplished yogi from the Himalayas. He came, stood in front of our physiology class, and he took a knife and he plunged the knife right through his biceps like that. And, you know, if you did that to my biceps, it would probably bleed. It just went right through his biceps, and he stood there. Because to a yogi, a real yogi, this is not a body of flesh and bones. It's a body of consciousness. It's a body of light. And light doesn't bleed. And he put this knife right through his biceps, and everybody was aghast and completely shocked at what he had done. And then there was somebody in the front row, a physician of course, a professor of medicine, who introduced the doubt that you talk about. When it says banish the doubt, and he thought this was some kind of a trick. And he mocked the yogi. He said, so what other tricks do you have up your sleeve? And immediately the yogi's attention shifted from his self to his self-image. Because when you mock somebody, who do you mock? Their ego. The spirit is beyond that. So as soon as his attention shifted from his ego, from his spirit to his ego, this thing opened up like a fountain of blood. And it sprayed everybody in the front row. And then he was such an expert that as soon as he recognized what had happened, he immediately let the ego go. And he shifted back into samadhi. And as soon as he did that, this thing stopped as quickly as it had opened, like a faucet. So that's the power of intent, but that intention has to not come from the ego. It has to come from the level of the spirit. Just once we start glimpsing that, we start to go beyond our ordinary states of consciousness. And what the great Vedantic tradition was saying was that these states of consciousness actually create a certain way that the nervous system functions. And in each state that the nervous system functions, it creates its own physiology and creates its own reality. So you begin to escape from so-called ordinary reality. The so-called ordinary reality, which of course Wayne has been referring to as the tribal mind. It's the motley group of sages and psychotics and geniuses who can escape that tribal mind. And that's happened throughout the ages. You have to escape that tribal mind. And once you escape that tribal mind, then you begin to see that there are states of consciousness which are beyond the ordinary waking and dreaming and sleeping.